The crisis of violent crimes and an uptick in shootings are taking the Big Apple by storm. The city is still reeling from Friday's tragic shooting in Harlem that left rookie police officer Jason Rivera dead. And we learned today that another cop responding to the same scene, Wilbert Mora, also lost his life. These are just the latest in a surge in violent crimes with no signs of slowing down. As of November of last year, the city recorded almost 500 murders in 2021, the highest in 10 years, as well as 1,500 shootings, the highest in 15 years. Newly elected Mayor Adams made curbing gun violence a cornerstone of his campaign. And this week, he doubled down, unveiling what he dubbed a blueprint to bring an end to gun violence. Here's a little of what he said.
Today, we are releasing our blueprint to end gun violence. I want to be clear. This is not just a plan for the future. It is a plan for right now. Gun violence is a public health crisis. There's no time to wait. We must act.
Adams is facing some backlash over the specifics of his plan, namely concerns over implementing plainclothes anti-gun units in the streets. Here to discuss this development is former New York Assemblyman and former Vice Chair of the Democratic National Committee, Michael Blake. Michael, thank you so much for coming back here to Amplified. In November, Eric Adams established a transition committee to help address crime by investing in things like mental health, employment programs, and housing. But his new blueprint seems to depart from that. So, how is his new plan different?
Well, Sister Mill, let me say this very clearly. We should be building schools, not jails. We should be helping people get jobs, not making it more likely that they're going to go to jail. And this blueprint that's been laid out, sometimes there's hesitation for us to be very direct and clear because you never want to have a scenario where you're attacking a black mayor, only our second in New York City's history, and of course, a black man in that manner. However, let's be very direct about this. The Eric Adams plan will lead to more black and brown people going to jail, period, point blank. And the premise of creating task force, the premise of returning an anti-crime unit, the foolishness of talking about having judges having more discretion around dangerousness, the absolutely surreal proposal of saying that 16 and 17-year-olds who cannot state where an illegal gun came from would go to criminal court instead of family court. These policies are absolutely wrong. And I'm very encouraged by how many state legislators immediately said absolutely not.
Well, you have been quite critical of the mayor's new efforts to curb crime in New York. In the Gothamist, you were quoted saying, "As a tall, dark-skinned black man, I don't know any scenario where I would feel comfortable having a spot check on me because of all the reasons we've seen in history of how something goes quickly wrong." Elaborate on that.
One of the proposals from the mayor are for spot checks when you're at different Port Authority entrances. And so let's just internalize this. You have one scenario where over and over and over again, black, being dark, is seen as dangerous. How quickly this could spiral out of control if a spot check, because I think you might have a gun, or I think you reached for your glove compartment, or I think you did something that made me uncomfortable, being those in authority, could quickly lead to death. And so just again, everyone just internalize this. We're not saying at all that we don't want to have more guns off the street. Obviously, people want to see that occur. Everyone wants to get home safe. We absolutely mourn for the 2 police officers who lost their lives, who had their lives taken from them. We absolutely want things to change. But it does not mean that you strengthen a system that has centuries of racism intertwined within it. I have never seen a scenario where criminal justice has actually led to justice for black and brown people. Why would I want to have a spot check? We should actually just check the system.
It sounds a lot to me like the reinstating of what so many advocates have fought for years to get rid of, like a stop and frisk, etc. What other key points in this blueprint do you fear are going to bode worse for Black and brown people?
Well, I should first raise the age. The proposal that was laid out there, I've been very clear that Khalif Browder was my constituent in the assembly. His mother came to my office before she unfortunately lost her life and regularly would bring desserts and cookies and brownies to say something has to change around raise the age. And so if there's anything that people take away from the proposal, twofold. Number one, dangerousness being placed in the discretion of a judge is absolutely unacceptable because dangerousness is a substitute for Black and Latino. Separately, the proposal around 16 and 17-year-olds having to say if they don't know where an illegal gun came from, that they would go to criminal court instead of family court. Let's just think about how surreal that is. When you are recognizing the prevalence of guns that are coming in across the state and across respective lines, to say you need to tell me where this gun came from or else you're going to go to criminal court. And so it's been strong to see the pushback that has happened. And on a day like today, where we should be collectively talking about that we need to have a Black woman on the Supreme Court now that the retirement of Justice Breyer has been announced, we're talking about the injustice that would be occurring by the Eric Adams proposals as it relates to trying to address gun violence.
So, Mike, this new plainclothes unit named Neighborhood Safety Teams is supposed to actually replace the uniformed public safety teams. Apart from being in plainclothes instead of uniforms, how will this new task force actually be different? And what is the thought here of putting them in regular clothes to patrol the streets? I got to say, this is sounding so familiar and not in a good way.
So here's the core problem. No one can tell you how it'd be different. So we're in a scenario right now where not only would it be more cops on the street, but even deeper than that, you had an unnamed member of the transition committee. And I always want to make it clear, there is another Michael Blake that was listed on the transition committee. That brother's not me. I respect his work, but that is not me. But you had an unnamed person actually saying some of the proposals that came out were actually not some of these that they were prepared for, especially these egregious ones that are being laid out. So when we talk through just having more police on the street alone is not changing what's going on with gun violence. Just having task force, just having the perception of fear is not stopping what is leading to someone grabbing a gun in the first place. And so we have to address the conditions and the underlying circumstances. I said this often over the last few years. If we focus more on making sure that a kid has what they need in a book bag, then looking at them and trying to arrest them for a dime bag, things would be different. If we spent more energy trying to build schools rather than trying to build jails, things would be different. If we focus more on making sure that someone could be in a uniform for a job and a career and pension and wages, rather than having more uniforms of individual officers that they are afraid of, things would be different. And what we have to be very clear is, yes, we want for this Black man to be successful as mayor of New York City, but we do not want that success to lead to more of our people ending up in uniforms and saying that they are going into a scenario of ending up at Rikers and other jails. It is time for us to stop the nonsense of having more officers on the street and believing alone that will make us safe. I have seen over and over again why we have felt unsafe. I am an individual who has endured police brutality twice in my life. And if I, as a former elected official who people knew my name, they knew who I was, if that level of injustice could happen to me, what happens to the name that you don't know? What happens to the young brother that you have not recognized? What happens to that young sister that is hoping that they're going to make it home alive? All we're saying is you want guns off the street, but that should not lead to more Black and brown people being off the street because they end up in jail.
All right. Michael Blake, CEO of Atlas Strategy Group, former assembly member in New York and former vice chair of the DNC. Thank you for breaking it all down. We will keep following and watching Mayor Adams and his anti-crime blueprint and have you back to keep us schooled on it. Thank you.